October is Domestic Violence Month, and this month has been set aside to acknowledge domestic violence survivors and to be a voice for its victims. We know that domestic violence is present in every community. It has no age limit, no socioeconomic status, no sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality differences. Domestic violence is not always physical, but it can result in physical injury, psychological trauma, and even death. The devastating consequences of domestic violence can runs across generations and can last a lifetime. We're happy to have Washington Informer staff reporter William Ford, who covers Prince George's County, joining us for a conversation about domestic violence with Melissa Hoppmeyer, Chief Special Victims and Family Violence Unit in Prince George's County. Thank you so much, Ms. Hoppmeyer, and we're glad that you could jump in really quickly. Our special thoughts go out to Ms. Braveboy. And so we wanna just say to you, first of all, tell us, give us a sense, and William, you can jump in at any time, but give us a sense of what is happening with families with as it relates to domestic violence in Prince George's County.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, especially last minute. And I know the state's attorney, I hope she feels better soon as well. So, what we say is domestic violence really is the pandemic happening inside of the pandemic. Because, while we are supposed to and we should, stay at home, for victims of domestic violence, home is not a safe place. And what we have seen over the last few months of the pandemic is an increase, about a 10% increase in domestic violence cases in our office. Not only that, but we've seen a 10% increase in domestic violence homicides. And so what we know is that, victims of domestic violence are not safe at home. And we are urging them, and, we've partnered with our community partners, including the Family Justice Center, to just advocate that they know that although, things are not normal, we are still here. Our doors are still open. We are still able to help because sometimes, like I said, it's just not a safe place for people to be at home. And we want them to know that there are resources out there in the community and that we're here to help.
What is it? In the wintertime, people are in, right? There are times when, what is it that triggers domestic violence during these times? When we talk about the virus, but what is the link? Help us to understand.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. It's, close quarters all of the time. It's the economic stresses that people are seeing from losing their jobs. It's health stresses if somebody comes down with COVID or has symptoms of COVID. It's that, children are at home and there is no place for them to go. And so I think all of those things are just kind of a counterpeg waiting to happen when you're already in a relationship that is abusive. And so if, we know the statistics show that people who lose their job or don't have a place, don't have, home stability, those are all triggers for domestic violence. It triggers us out of the honeymoon phase into the abusive phase. And so we're kind of, the coronavirus is a perfect kind of storm for that because people are losing their jobs, people are losing their health care. There is not access to as many resources as there normally is because of the shutdown, because of the quarantine. And so it's really just kind of a perfect storm for victims who are in the cycle of violence.
Will, you covered a press conference recently about a new piece of legislation in Prince George's County that impacts, I guess, the way certain things are characterized, certain acts. I think it's the strangulation bill. You want to talk about that and then talk about how it relates to domestic violence?
Well, it's what happened is the state legislature now classifies strangulation as a felony. And I'll pass it on to Melissa Hoppmeyer. If she explained it during the press conference last week. If you could let our listeners and viewers know how that worked, because you're better equipped to explain it better now. Could you explain it for us on how?
Sure. The The strangulation protocol or the bill?
Strangulation protocol, yes.
Yeah, so we're really excited to roll that out, especially during Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So the state's attorney, has been working on it with myself and some other community partners for about 2 years. And so what happens is Prince George's County now has a coordinated response when a victim calls and reports an allegation of strangulation. And so what will happen is if a person calls 911, 911 will ask them whether or not they were choked or strangled. If they respond yes, EMS and police personnel will be notified. And then when they get there, they will offer obviously medical services if they need them. And they will document the strangulation in the fashion that we have laid out through the protocol. And it's coordinated, it's consistent, and really what it's meant to do is if the victim wants to, we can't force victims, but we do encourage victims to seek medical assistance because strangulation is so lethal. They'll be transported to Prince George's Hospital, where our domestic violence and sexual assault center, which is fantastic, has a forensic machine that can conduct a forensic strangulation examination that we can use both to ensure that the victim gets whatever medical assistance they need, but we can also use in prosecutions. So it's just a really important piece in domestic violence prosecution and in the elimination of domestic violence to have this protocol.
It's October, as we said in the beginning, which is Domestic Violence Month. Is there something that happens differently during this month that doesn't happen throughout the year? Or how are you using this time, besides joining us here at WIN TV, to really get the message out to people that of the help and resources that are available to them?
Domestic violence doesn't just happen in October. We want to highlight it, and so we spend a lot of time in October. People are focused their attention on it. And so we spend that time to try to engage the public, engage the community, give them the tools that they need so that throughout the year they can know the risks, they can know the signs, they know what resources there are in the county to help anybody if they're suffering from domestic violence, if they have a friend. And so, the state's attorney really focuses on it 12 months of the year, but she wants, at least in October, she knows people are listening even more. So I know we are having a Not One event next Wednesday at the Cottage City municipality. That's going to highlight, our work as well as the work of our community partners, because really, something that the state's attorney is really adamant about is that this is not just a prosecutorial problem, it's a community problem. And we're not going to solve domestic violence alone as the state's attorney's office. And so it's just so imperative that we work with our partners to let victims know that there are resources in the community available for them, to let offenders know we're going to hold them accountable, but also we're going to provide them with the help they may need so that they can so that they don't reoffend. Because really, this is not about it's about making sure that we end domestic violence and that abusers know that their behavior is unacceptable and that there is a way to comport.
Wonderful. We're kind of running out of time, and I want to thank both of you all for being with us. But Melissa, it's Friday. The weekend is coming, and there's somebody who may be watching who's worried because it's Friday and it's the weekend, and not knowing who to reach out to. Is there anything you can share with us right now? Any place you can share right now, a number or something, in case someone says it's Friday, I need a safe place to be?
So, I would 100% reach out to the Family Justice Center. They work 9 to 5, but they have 24-hour resources as well. And I always say to victims, if you are in a dangerous situation, 911 has to be the first place you call, because, the community providers are excellent and they're good at triaging, but they are not the police. They cannot help in an emergency if someone has a weapon. But I would really encourage your listeners and viewers to reach out to the Family Justice Center. They have some excellent resources there, and some of them are 24 hours a day. And the phone number, let me get that for you, 'cause I usually have it off the top of my head, but I'm a little bit nervous being on live TV.
No, it's great. It's fantastic. And the most important thing is most people won't see this live. So,
Yeah. So the number there is 301-780-8008. And that's, And then there also is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That is a really great resource as well. And that number is 1-800-799-7233.
Wonderful. Okay, we posted both of those numbers on the screen, and we want to thank both of you for joining us. We'll keep doing what you do out there in the county. You all can read Will Ford in the Washington Informer every week, and you can read him online as well. Melissa Hoppmeyer, thank you so very much for joining us, and know that you always have a place to come to help to keep our residents protected from domestic violence.
Thank you so much for having me, and have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.